Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would do a video on upgrading some creations to Alpha 12 since it just came out today. Woohoo! Been kind of waiting for that. I've got some things ready to roll. I haven't done it yet, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. Just to recap, I got the Scar Crawler out over the weekend or Sunday. It was put out, so that's up there. The Scar Trove is actually ready as well. This is a Tier 1 3x 200k Wi-Fi solar storage building thing. Basically just spawn it in, park it next to your base, and access the storage via Wi-Fi. This is a Tier 1 creation, 75,000 CPU, 18 minute 48 second build time, requires very basic resources. It has 11 carbon substrate in use. I don't know what from at this point in time. It might be some of the little trimming details or something. I'm not sure. I didn't use any carbon substrate on the build itself, so it is just concrete or cargo extensions. Then I have this defense tower also for the Scar. I don't have a name for this one yet. This is a armored concrete defense tower. It's also tier 1. CPU wise at 73,000 right now. It's lacking ammo storage, which I'm going to be adding into it, so that'll use up some more of the CPU. It's not going to have a shield. It's just a basic pretty cheap defense tower. Now it's got a 32 minute 40 second build time. I got to figure out exactly what is using what resources, because I am seeing a little bit of cobalt and titanium rods in the mix. I'm not sure if it's the weapons that's using that or what. I'm not sure yet. I don't have much in here, so it's I got to kind of learn what is using what resources to know what I should be using or not using if I want to build starter creations. But the main part of the video is I've been doing a mass Alpha 12 update to Kriel creations, basically all the HVs and SVs. I have 4 of the 5 of these done already, so I'm pretty happy about that. The Kriel Ghast, I know this was updated by Justic as well, and the A11 version was on the workshop page for it as a modded version. I took this to A12 from the original. I got the CPU to be happy at 96K. I didn't have to cut any thrusters or anything else. Basically added in the CPU blocks, and that's about it. It is a tier 4 SV. No real other changes were made. I did change the pilot seat too, so now when you sit in this, it's got the right one, so you have the better visibility. I had the wrong one in here prior, so that was bugging me. So that one is ready. The Kriel Kachina is ready. This one I had to make a few tweaks, basically rearrange how the inside was done. It's tier 3 to start with. It already was. But to add the shield, you have to update it to tier 4. So it's got a spot for a shield now, and it's got a spot to add or to remove the 2 tier 3 blocks and add in 4 tier 4 blocks in these locations here, as well as the Pentaxa tank. And then it will be upgraded to a shield. Nothing else changed in the stats on this. It flies quite nicely. This one was already made under CPU conditions, so it didn't have any RCS stock. The Wraith, this one was a lot more problematic to update. But if you take a look at it now, it's at 99,870 out of 100,000 for CPU. It exactly works. I had to make some changes to this, and basically I cut a couple thrusters, and I didn't like to. But I had to remove the 2 thrusters that I had in these locations here. They were pretty big thrusters. They're the 3x7, x3 thrusters. By cutting those 2 and the 4 additional strafing thrusters I had on each side over here, which were small ones that really didn't do a lot, it now works. And I removed all the RCS off from it. As well as added in the CPU tier blocks inside of here. So you got one there, one over here, and one over here. So that's pretty much all that's changed. I didn't cut the weapon storage or anything else. As in flying, it's very quick. It does pretty good. It's got good strafing too, better strafing than most of my ships. And that is still kind of the case. I mean, it's not perfect. I don't even know what perfect would be, but it definitely does decent. And I also tested it with shield and power. I managed to get rid of a couple generators in here as well. Same thing goes for the Ghast. The Ghast also has a couple less generators than it used to have. With A12, it just doesn't need them anymore. Well, I parked that really nicely, didn't I? Yeah, I'm probably going to get a ticket for that. All right. Anyway, this one, the Tengu is also updated. Well, will be right after this video on the workshop. This version here is actually updated. I didn't have to do a lot to this again. I did have to cut the ammo storage. Now, this one was already made again for CPU or Alpha 11. But when the numbers changed, it shot at like 200 some points over the tier 3 CPU. So I had to cut a little bit so it fits under there, because I wanted the 100% efficiency. And I cut a couple ammo containers out of it. So I had 1K ammo before, now it has 500K ammo. It only has 2 turrets on here though, so it really doesn't have a lot firing. So I don't think that'll be a big issue with that. It's not really for combat at all. It's just kind of a drone defense thing if you happen to be getting picked on while you're mining. But other than that, this one is also ready. This is the one I haven't touched yet, and this is the one I wanted to do in the video here to show you some of the processes of what I'm looking at. Now this one, to start with, 85,000 CPU. It has 54 RCS currently in it. Now, and this is another one of those ones that just doesn't turn on. Now, I had a comment on the Kriel Ghast actually a little bit ago, where someone was really mad, saying that, you know, nothing works and blah blah blah. And it was kind of true too, because if you don't know, when this was first spawned in, the original Kriel Ghast, not the modified one by Justic, this one, it wouldn't even power on. It was doing the same thing as what this tank is over here. It doesn't turn on. It might have fuel. It might have everything in it like it is. The power is physically on, and it does nothing. And that is all about the CPU blocks. But I'm going to go through a few processes on this thing and try to get it as optimized as I can. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this is kind of weird, is I like to just take an RCS, because I want to remove the RCS that's in here. There's got a whole bunch of them. I don't want to hunt them down. It takes a lot of time and problematic. So I'm going to spawn in one RCS here. I'm going to go to the console by hitting the tilde key, type in DI for debug information. If you notice in the center of the screen, that pops up a little block up there that tells you some information. So when I'm looking at this RCS, it tells me the actual name of it according to the game engine. So it is RCS block GV. So the next piece of information I need to remove all the RCS, and that is the process I'm doing, is I need to figure out its ID. So right here on the statistics page up here, after you hit P on the creation, you see the ID is 1070. So then I'm going to go to the console. I hit the tilde key again, I put in the command, replace blocks. We got to give it the creation number. I did get that right. Yeah, 1070. And actually, I'm going to look at this RCS when I do it. And then we want to replace the RCS. So that is this RCS block GV. This part here is case sensitive, by the way. So if you don't have if you use lowercase, it will not know what you're talking about. And I want to replace that with empty, and that is the command to remove the blocks and not replace it with another block. So once I do that, you'll see that it replaced 55 blocks. So all 54 of the RCS that were already here are replaced, and it took out the one I placed as a placeholder. So with that gone, the CPU on this drops some more to 66,000. So the next big thing I need to do on this one is to find a home for 4 tier 4 CPU blocks somehow, somewhere. And this part can be very problematic as well. It's hard to figure out where you're gonna put stuff sometimes in existing creations. What I was hoping for, though, is by removing all these RCS, that I'll have little holes in the hull now that I could put these blocks in place at. So I actually like right over here. This looks like a great spot to get in 2 of the 4, one per side. Let me rotate it the right way to start with. And let's get back in here. I've got more room in this thing too, so I'm not too worried about space. Alright, so I think you're fairly safe in that location. I think that's completely under everything else. So there goes one CPU block there, and one on the other side. So that's 2 of the 4. And I think I've got some extra room inside. Yeah, I have this compartment inside these big side things on here. That gives you some extra room. And let's see, I gotta try to rotate this thing somehow, but let me try to rotate it first and then put it in place. So I'll stick these to the inside just to keep them a little bit further away from potential damage. So we'll stick one over there, and on the other side here, we'll stick one over here as well. Okay, now you noticed it instantly turned on. So that's great. Now we're actually quite below the CPU. And all this has given me a nice idea too on if you really wanted to make the ultimate tank, you know, how big can you make it? Before HVs were cut off to 70,000 CPU, so this was right at the limits. But it's no longer right at the limits, which is cool. Allows you to build a little bigger HVs. Alright, so all that's said and done now, and this thing should be operational. And it looks like it's doing pretty good. Actually, the strafing on this isn't so bad either. And this is with no RCS or anything in here, so can't really complain. It turns all right. Let me just park it again here. All right, so now, oh, you know what? There's another test I like to do with a lot of these things too. So in my inventory, let me grab some Pentaxid, and I will fill this thing up. Oh, I guess I already did that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it for a quick spin, and while I'm moving here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the shield. Alright, and as I'm roaming around with the shield on, I'm taking a good look at the power down on the side. I've seen it hit 82% once, and I'm trying to just be jerky with the controls and strafing constantly as I'm moving and things like that, just to max it out. So it hit very briefly at 85% power usage, and yeah, okay, I'm good with that. So this one really doesn't need any cuts to generators. It's about right. It's staying at a nice safe level with, in the worst case scenario of that, charging a shield. So, man, that was easy. Um, yeah, and I don't think anything else needs to change on here. Last thing I want to do is I'll go to devices, make sure they're all in order. Like I just added these four, so they're ungrouped. So I'll simply go up here and go to auto group. Last thing I would do before I update the blueprint is grab my original blueprint picture that I have saved in on my hard drive and update the blueprint picture on this. Here, I'm gonna first save this. So let's see, Alt O to save it. Let me go over to HVs, and we're looking for the Apopis and overwrite. All right. So that is about it. And actually, right after this video, I'm going to update all 5 of these creations for Kriel. I got to look at the Kriel and see if any more actually need updating. I know I did the Overseer before. The Beholder was made after the CPU, so that one I know is good. It's lacking a detector, and it's lacking a teleporter. Same thing with the Overseer, but I'm not so worried about those because, well, if on new ships I'll put them in and go out of my way too, but on the older ships they're each one block things, and there's a lot of room on those ships to add that. So maybe someday I'll get to it, but it's not really a priority. Making them work is a priority. So that is what's taking place now. So on other plans I got for this week, I want to get the interior of this crafted. I'd really like to get this one done on my part. It's been sitting around a little bit too long now. Again, kind of reminds you of a certain space carrier, huh? And then, once I get a lot of this stuff wrapped up, I might take a venture into the MCRN and human creations too to try to update some of those blueprints, especially the ones that I can do quickly. Some are not quick. Some require a whole lot of work to be done, such as especially older creations like the Gigacore and Cerberus PSV, things like that. That I don't know if I'm going to hit right away because I know I'm in for a lot of work, and some of those might get altered so much that I would want to put out a new version of it anyway. Like what happened with the Persis Carrier, that one going from the original to the CV2 version. Well, that was about a 40-hour project, and it is quite a lot different overall from the original one. So that, if I did something like the Gigacore that way, it would be like that as well. It's a big step. It needs it. Obviously, it doesn't work anymore. A lot of those older creations are not working anymore. But that's about all I got for today. But keep in mind, on the steps that I've been looking at on these, in my amazing parking job over here, that you're probably going to run into a lot of creations, older creations on the workshop that are going to have the same problems that these did. In fact, when I first spawned these in, I think 2 of these only, this one powered up and this one powered up, and everything else would not power up anymore. So if you're new to the game and you don't know what's going on, it could be really frustrating. But I just wanted you to know what you got to do, and it's basically balancing that CPU to get the numbers in check, and you can do that by removing parts. The biggest part to remove on these things is RCS. They're typically not needed. Typically, depending on where your thruster placements and things are. Like this ship, seriously was not designed for the new flight model. I wouldn't put the thrusters in the center like I did here if it was. But it still works just fine. And actually with no RCS in here now, if we take the Ghast, it's pretty good. Does all right. Now I've got a couple of MCRN creations too that I know they were when I built them, that was right in the middle when they were working with the flight model, and things were changing constantly. Like the MCRN Talon T2, I know flies slowly. So I'm gonna probably take a look at that one and a couple of those creations in there too, to see what I can do to try to beef them up. One thing you don't want with any kind of attack SV is slow, because with the kind of POIs and things that you may encounter, uh, if you're slow, you're just gonna get pulverized on some of these. So if you can get in and do these little hit and run attacks and escape safely, you'll be okay. But if you can't get out of the way because the ship isn't powerful enough to strafe or whatnot to get you out of the way of incoming fire, you can take heavy damage very quickly. I got this actually because I took the MX-11, the first version, not the one I actually put on the workshop, but the first version, and I tried taking on the hardest of the Kriel POIs, which was the Kriel Centrum done by Ascarly. And literally, because that POI had a shield on it and some human turrets, trying to take it on with an SV, it can be done, and it was explained to me how it could be done with an SV. But from my experience, well, that method isn't very fun. It was actually kind of crazy. But you literally almost cannot put out enough damage quickly enough to take the shield down, because you're getting hit yourself, and you got to back away to let your shield recharge. And by the time you come back in to do it again, to launch as much as you possibly can at that POI just to get its shield down, it's charged back up too. So I was just literally making no progress on it. Wasn't making any progress until I brought in the tank, which has all the turrets firing at the same time, which does a lot more damage output to a shield. So SVs on really tough POIs, shielded POIs with a lot of guns, I don't care how good of a SV you've got, I think you're going to have problems. So I think there is a clear role for heavy tanks at this point in time, taking on really tough POIs where I don't think you'll be able to do it, at least solo with an SV. Now, if it was a co-op thing and you're all shooting at it, that's great. But if you got to do it by yourself, you're going to need probably a tank or some crazy style beholder type of CV that can take on POIs. There's not a lot of those around, but there are some. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, and right after this video and after I get uploaded, I'm going to update all 5 of these blueprints on the Kriel. I might take a quick look at the Kriel A12, the base, just to see if that needs anything at all. I don't think it does, but it might, who knows. So that's pretty much it. Anyway, you all have yourselves a good day. I will see you later.